Love to go to space.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. Great to be here. I'm afraid it's going to be in English, and I think that most people must be quite hungry. So I hope you will be okay just being a little bit hungry for a little bit longer, because we have something very exciting to talk about this afternoon. I'd like to start with 2 questions, if I may, just so a show of hands. So, first question: if money was not the issue, and if you we're pretty sure that you are going to come home safely, how many people would like to experience space for themselves? So, scientifically, I would say that that is most people. Second question: how many people expect to be astronauts? And honestly, nobody. And that is why we're here. So, I like to do that little bit of market research everywhere I go. Anywhere you go, whoever you're talking to, whether it's kids or it's old people in any part of the world, that's exactly the reactions that you get. Everybody wants to do this. Everybody believes that they can't. And that, I guess, is the initial justification for doing what it is that we're doing. So, I want to show you a picture here. This is probably the most amazing, unique picture that you have ever seen in your life, because it has 3 things that have never been present before. The first, on the left-hand side of your screen, is the side of a building we call Spaceport America. It's based down in New Mexico in the United States, and it is the world's first purpose-built commercial spaceport. It was designed by Foster & Partners. It was a $250 million build. It has a 12,000-foot runway and a remarkable hangar terminal facility. And it's only been built, it only exists as a base to take you and me to space. Number 2, behind you'll see what looks like an aeroplane, or maybe 2 aeroplanes, or maybe even 3 aeroplanes. I'll explain what they are in a moment. But basically that is the world's first privately built commercial human spaceflight system. So the world's first commercial spaceship, if you like. And the only reason that has been built, and it is real, you can see that, is to take you and me to space. And then perhaps most remarkably in this picture, the people in the foreground are some of the 650 people from 68 countries around the world that have paid up to $250,000 to be pioneers in this amazing new industry, and, of course, to book their seats for the experience of a lifetime. Now, one of the things that really grabs me about this project, and I've been there since day 1, I was the first employee, as it happens, and is that space has, particularly human spaceflight, has a unique way of inspiring and exciting. And that's always been the case. Back in the good old days when presidents were more presidential, this guy here, JFK, his legacy really is that he stood up in 1962 and said that the United States of America would put a man on the moon and bring him back safely by the end of the decade. It was a huge statement. No idea how they were going to achieve that. But it inspired a generation, and there are still people, many of our customers, who say that their education and their jobs and their lives were completely changed by the inspiration that came from that challenge and the subsequent events that led up to 1969 and the first moon landings. And that inspiration still exists today. Here are some of the students that our customers have paid for scholarships for them to study STEM education, science, technology, engineering and maths, through that inspiration that comes from the excitement of pushing through boundaries across the final frontier and into space. So why do we go to space? Well, there are a lot of reasons for going to space, but I think we should start with the obvious one, and that is because it's just such a cool thing to do. This is one of my favourite pictures. It's a US astronaut, Tracy Corwell is her name, and this is a picture of her on the International Space Station. You can see from her hair she's in zero gravity, and she's just looking out of the window. those fabulous, life-changing, profound views of the planet Earth for the blackness of space. We know that those views change people's lives very positively. It redefines their relationship with the cosmos and with Earth. And that is something that we want to offer to thousands of people because it's a very positive experience. But there's more than that, because we all know, and I'm sure you have discussed at this conference, that we face some enormous challenges as a species in the next 40, 50 years. And although there is, as we say, no silver bullet, there's no magic one thing that will solve all those problems, having better access to space will matter, does matter. Already, so many of the things that we take for granted in today's, the life we have today, have been made possible by the fact that we have been to space. And that is just going to get more and more important. So our mission, if you like, is really to transform that ability to get into space for many different purposes, and to make sure that we are using the world outside our world to make a better life down here on planet Earth. If Stephen Hawking were talking now, he would say that ultimately, we need to become a multi-planetary species. Otherwise, we will definitely be over. We know that for a fact, that we cannot survive, whatever happens to the planet, we will not survive here forever. So actually, if the human species needs to go on for a lot longer, we do need to become multi-planetary. So again, we need to get out there in a better way than we have been getting there to date. So what does Virgin have to do with this? Well, Virgin is an unusual group. I don't know how many of you know much about our brand. It is probably almost unique. Maybe it is unique in as much as it is so multi-sector. Really, it doesn't matter what the product or what the sector, what the service is. We like to go in, particularly where we feel that the public is being badly served because that sector has become lazy or complacent or is stopping serving its customers well. And we like to go in, shake it up, see if we can do it a little better. Sometimes that works well, sometimes it doesn't work at all. But to have fun while we're doing it, but basically to try and make people's lives better. And that question, or those questions I asked you right at the start, you were sort of right in the second answer you gave, because if nothing changes, I can pretty much guarantee, although I don't know you all, but I can pretty much guarantee that nobody in this room will go to space. Maybe I'm wrong, but there is a pretty. I would put a few euros on that, because in the history of time, and we've been putting people in space now for more than half a century, only 558 people have ever been there. It's a tiny number. I'm proud to say actually 7 Italians have been, which is a good number actually. So well done, Italy. But generally speaking, you had to be an American or a Russian. As with so many things in life, sadly, it really helps to be a man. But even then, the chances of you getting and having that remarkable experience were very, very remote indeed. So this is definitely an industry which needs disrupting. So it was a classic case for Virgin to go in and try and do something. We've done it with airlines, with the music business, with gyms, with mobile phones. So Richard Branson thought, well, let's do it with space. Now, I think what we quickly realized is that doing it with space is a little harder than doing it with mobile phones, or doing it even with airlines. And the big problem when we started to have a look at this sector to try and do something about it was that the technology used to get people into space and back really hadn't changed. It's government technology, and so often government technology is incredibly effective at actually sort of doing something that's never been done before, but it often then takes the private sector to make it elegant and efficient and fit for purpose. So, great photo here, 2 Russian rockets, one 1961, one 2014. Actually very difficult to tell the difference between them. And that is pretty crazy, because if you think of all the other technologies over that period which have been significant to our well-being, most of them have changed out of recognition. But we had a problem here, because these rockets were never going to be the rockets which were going to be suitable to take ordinary people, to take you and me into space. Too expensive, too dirty, too dangerous. However, we love a challenge. So it didn't put us off, but what it did mean was that we knew we needed to find some good and different prototype technology before we really launched into this project. And we found it through a relationship with this man. His name is Burt Rutan. He's a US aerospace engineer, designer, probably one of the most brilliant on the planet. And Burt, to win a prize back at the beginning of this century, sort of 2003-4, designed a system which we found, I guess almost by a stroke of luck, and when we found out how he was going about designing this new system, we became very excited, because we knew two things needed to be present in any technology that we sponsored. The first was that it needed to be safe, and actually the second it needed to be safe, and the third that it needed to be safe. And then the other thing though was that it needed to be commercially viable. We needed a system that we could actually make money while operating, so that we didn't just start a company, but we started a whole new industry. So the system that Burt Rutan designed, we thought had that potential. And I won't go into a lot of detail about it now, but perhaps the most impressive thing about it was the way that he decided to bring his spaceship back from the nothingness of space, the vacuum of space, into the atmosphere, which is a difficult part of spaceflight. And he did it with the very simple and humble inspiration of what we call a shuttlecock, which I think is it Volano? See. That's good. And so a Volano, a shuttlecock, if you throw it up, always comes down with the ball first. So the attitude is controlled. It also always comes down more slowly than a tennis ball because of the drag from the feathers. And so Burt decided if he could make his spaceship into a shuttlecock in space, then he wouldn't need to worry about the heat buildup or computerized flight control systems, and he would have a reusable vehicle. And for those that are having trouble in understanding how you turn a spaceship into a Volano, you do it like this. So this is our spaceship in what we call the re-entry configuration, or the feathered configuration. So those wings rotate round so that they stand 60 degrees to the spaceship, and as it comes back, dragged by gravity into the atmosphere, the shape of the spacecraft will make sure it always comes down belly first, which is what we want. And then the drag from the wings will make sure that it slows powerfully in the upper atmosphere until it's slow enough to put the wings back to a normal aeroplane configuration and glide back down to the runway. And in 2004, this little prototype Spaceship One became the first privately built spaceship to put a man into space. And then it did something which none of the space agencies ever done. It turned that spaceship round within 14 days and made the same flight again. In doing so, it won $10 million from the X Prize. So I'd like to play you a very short film because it's very historic, it's very impressive, which just shows that system at work.